Hello, and welcome to EvCo's latest and greatest limited edition podcast series, VintageTalk. One word. I just came up with it. If you're a little late to the EvCo just kind of... mythos, sure. If you're late to the EvCo mythos, my good friend Archer and I go antiquing and have gone antiquing just in and around where we live all the time. And so we've decided to take some of our favorite and least favorite, in some cases, items that we've found while antiquing and just talk about them and kind of recount our adventures to downtown McKinney and probably Frisco and other areas around our little realm here.
The general periphery.
So for our first episode, we are going to be talking about what is to the best of our memory, the first items that we actually bought while we were out antiquing with one another. This is probably inaccurate, but it's to the best of my memory. I mean, we've been doing this since I could drive us there, so that was like 2016, 17. It's been a long time.
It's been a while.
But Archer, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. So right in front of me, between me and EvCo, I have a small cigar box that says Perdomo on it. Habano, Cuban cigars, the usual. But of course it doesn't have cigars. I don't do nicotine. But
what are you talking about?
But inside this box is a large collection of media. And for the most part, you have a lot of old photographs and different types of photographs. So like early glass photography, early tin type photography, a few film, cellophane, etc. But what comprises the bulk of the objects in this box are old postcards. The postcards themselves, they vary from date. You have things as early as, well, I think the earliest postcard that I've got in here is 1911.
Really? Wow.
Nothing earlier than that to my knowledge. So you have a lot of postcards from then, but then you also have things from the mid-century up till about the 90s or 80s. Mm-hmm. And in truth, this relates to some of our earlier trips to downtown McKinney, where both me and Evan would kind of peruse the old postcards.
That was kind of like our first passion within the greater realm of antiquing, I feel like. I think there was probably a few months in a row where we would try to find all the best postcards we could every time we went.
And we still maintain that even though that was years ago, we've still cleared them out.
There hasn't been any. We just went today again and looked through some of them.
There really wasn't anything good anymore.
Yeah.
So we found them all, frankly.
We found all the good ones. What would you say is the most, like, is there like a recurring theme throughout most of your postcards? Because most of the ones I have are like motels or camping lodges or, that sort of thing.
So I think just because I've been collecting these for so long, they reflect different interests as I've kind of gone through them. So right now what I'm showing Evan too, are a couple of like very vintage, classic looking travel postcards. One of them says, "Greetings from North Platte, Nebraska." Another has a message from Yellowstone National Park. And they have that kind of like Art Deco, 1930s, very colorful, very vibrant, but also very classic. So there's a handful of those. There's a lot of very European-centric ones. So the one that I'm holding is the Sagrada Familia, which is a basilica that's being built in Barcelona, Spain. A lot of these are very European-centric, a lot of focus on the architecture of Europe. For the ones that are a little bit older, specifically from about the 1910s, 1920s, those I primarily collect on the basis of if they have any text on the back of them. And I think that a lot of these cards come from the same family, so you can trace out a lot of the discussions through the postcards, which is fun. And then also I like to check the addresses on them, just see if the building's still there, see how the town that it was from changed, that sort of thing. So you've got cards from Cincinnati, a couple from New York, just kind of all over. And on the 1910s, 1921s, it's more old European buildings, just in grayscale now. So
these kinds right here, I mean, the listeners can't see it, but these
Yeah.
kinds that highlight like the big cities with all the lights on are also one of my favorite types. I don't think I have many of those myself. But
Yeah, I don't think that there ever were many because I don't have too many either. And then something that's also been fun to keep track of is the different postage stamps that are used. So, for instance, there's this one that has George Washington on it. It's green and it says United States postage, 1 cent. And I've seen that on about 5 different postcards, and for the most part, they're 1940s, 1945. And then you have newer ones, older ones, and it's just interesting to keep track of them. And then you also get more exotic ones. So this one has one from Denmark, which is pink, has a ballerina on it, and there's some sort of stamp put over that one as well.
So it's almost like you're collecting 2 or 3 things at once by getting postcards.
Exactly.
Got the stamps, got the themes. Well, so I'm gonna cheat on the first episode already. I'm technically talking about 2 things because I also have bought some postcards. So I'll just throw in that like I said, I found plenty of those myself, and they are not in probably quite as good a shape as Archer's because he's conserved them in his little cigar box, whereas I have just tacked them to the wall.
All of the cards, when they were originally bought, they all came with this little plastic fold or something all around them. So I've kept that, haven't really taken them out of that, and then I keep them all put into the cigar box, always have that closed, and I usually put that in a closet. Somewhere that's dark, a little bit cool.
Yeah, you're much more respectful about conservation than I am.
Because I think I picked these just on the basis of not really needing to display them. So if I did want to have them around, it would purely just be because I want to have them around.
That's fair.
So I don't need to display them. I don't need to do anything with them. I can just let them sit. And when I want to, I can look at them for reference.
That might be like the big difference that gets highlighted between you and me when we have gone through this whole series is probably that like most of the stuff I get is for some sort of display purpose, whereas you are
I think
kind of a little less
more concept based, I guess.
Sure, more inclined in that direction.
And I'm sure that we'll rebound to this box again whenever we talk about really whatever else. There's currencies in here, there's old photograph types.
Yeah.
So we'll come back to it.
Cool. Well, mine is considerably less exciting. I am not really known as a person who makes impulse purchases. However, I have had my days, and
there have been days.
Dang it!
There have been days.
But if this wasn't one of them, I think the reason that I bought this is that if you take away the hooks, I'm building up to what it is. If you take away the hooks and the unnecessary little decor on it, the actual sword itself looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I think it's a nice little kind of, I don't know, almost Spanish style.
Yeah. Little conquistador type of thing almost. Yeah. But what it is it's a kind of brass looking sword, but the sword is actually a belt hanger. And as I have mentioned before to you, I have 2 belts. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hooks on this thing.
Well, 9, 10 on that.
Well, if you count these little, I don't know, maybe these are also meant to be.
Yeah, you can hang stuff on that.
Okay, so 10 hooks for 2 belts.
So.
And I don't know, Archer. I don't know.
So currently, in your own home, where does this reside?
It resides in my closet.
So it's not even.
It's not even in use. It is not hanging up
displayed
in any way, shape, or form.
Nothing's being hung on it.
No, it is probably the most useless antique purchase of all time.
So with that in mind.
Do
you still like it?
Yes, kind of, because I don't know if it's like my just writer's imagination that likes to go wild every time I see anything vaguely shaped like a weapon, but I hold this and it looks like a sword, and my mind immediately goes to freaking.
Well, I was going to say, on guard, I can see the inner Jack Sparrow coming out.
Yeah, right. As I hold this, you just like I'm slowly transitioning into my captain form.
So he'll start talking like it, and then soon he'll start walking like it, and then well, it's too late.
We all know how that goes. I used to make a conscious effort to do that, and now it just
happens.
It just happens. Yeah. So yeah, this was my first purchase that I remember. Probably not my best, but
he was still getting used to it.
Yeah,
finding his footing.
It was cheap as I remember. I don't think it was more than $10, maybe $15.
Because that's definitely going to be something that I'd like to discuss going forward, is the pricing on some of this.
Yeah, well, maybe we could start like analyzing / critiquing the prices set at the antique mall that we usually go to.
Yeah, because it does fluctuate a lot because
it really does.
Well, because it's an antique mall.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of different vendors who all set up booths in there, and they all price things according to their.
Well, I was gonna say, so it's the vendors that actually price things, So
that was, you want to say, within the realm of like $10, $15.
I don't think it was more than 15. I don't think I would have bought it otherwise.
Yeah, that's fair, especially back then.
Yeah, especially back then when I didn't have a job or anything. But yeah, this probably. I probably just feel like I need a lesson in impulse buying every few years.
So this is kind of the reminder?
And this is kind of the reminder.
Okay.
To make sure I don't ever buy anything more expensive than this that I don't need.
So maybe you should hang it above your bed frame.
Maybe I should.
Just every night you look up at it.
Yeah. And then it will fall one day and stab me in my sleep. So that'll be fun.
A fitting end.
If that's how I die, I won't be surprised.
That's the way to go, right?
Yeah, I won't be surprised. But this is probably, and this is sad, but like, if I were to ever have my own little antique booth of things that I want to get rid of, this would probably be in it. And there's so few things that I have that I'd want to get rid of that this would probably be the crown jewel of that booth, which is not good.
That's So it gets worse.
It gets worse.
Okay, cool.
But what doesn't get worse is this podcast. So I hope you enjoyed this first episode, but do stay tuned because there will be several more. Thank you for listening. Archer, tell everyone goodbye.
Goodbye.